The Department of Agrarian Reform has begun the distribution of land to farmers of Hacienda Luisita, which is owned by the family of President Benigno Aquino III. It is a commitment of the President being fulfilled to show his determination to bring social justice and improve the lives of not just the farmers in Hacienda Luisita, but all over the country. And joining us tonight on NewsLife is DAR Undersecretary Tony Parungao and Father Francis Lucas, Executive Secretary of the Episcopal Commission of the CBCP. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Usec Parungao, we'll start with you. How many farmers will benefit from the distribution of the land, and what is the size of the area of the land which will be distributed?
Well, based on the final master list that the DAR posted sometime early this year, there are a total number of 6,212 farm worker beneficiaries that have been deemed qualified to receive land. Now, the total area of the land holding to be distributed by the DAR amounts to close to 4,100 hectares. But this is not the full extent of the amount of the area of the property of Hacienda Luisita that will be covered under agrarian reform. Total amount 4,500 hectares. The difference of 400 being in the nature of land that's no longer fit for agricultural activity, but which can be used as common areas for the farm workers, which include, among others, fire breaks, lagoons, fish ponds, cement roads, and the like. These are necessary for the common use of the beneficiaries so that they can fully maximize the productivity of the land holdings. So a total, all told, of 4,100 hectares for 6,200 plus beneficiaries.
How many certificates were given today?
Oh, today around 646 farm lots were allocated to the same number of beneficiaries in Barangay Kutkut in Tarlac City, in Tarlac Province.
Father Francis, as an independent observer, what was the atmosphere like this morning when the distribution happened?
Well, when we arrived at the site, people were already there. I think they were there much earlier than us because the whole affair started around 8:15. And I felt the excitement of the people. They were really waiting. Totoo na ba ito o hindi pa? You know, and it was very participatory in the sense that using the tambiolo, the beneficiaries put their envelopes, kasi they were given the choice, individual or group for the tambiolo. So everybody saw everything else. So I saw that as very systematic, and I think this was well planned by the leadership and the staff. I was really surprised how systematic it was. I presuppose that maybe they even had a dress rehearsal in doing this, and it was a one-stop shop that the farmers, after receiving their LAC, they do not have to return to the offices over and over again. So everybody was there, and I was so appreciative when the one who explained said, at kung magtatanong ho kayo, hindi ho kayo magtatanong sa facilitator kung hindi doon sa mga abogado na nandyan na. So, you know, everything was set. So, first thing is systematic. Second, it was so transparent that everybody was there. And third is it's so participatory. And based on the reports of the secretary and those who spoke on behalf of DAR, I found out that they followed a very tedious process of talking with the farmers up to this last minute. So, and just before I left, some people texted me. They said that the 2-day plan was finished in about 6 hours instead of the 2 days as expected. So I saw that as efficiency.
Usec Parungao, why was the tambiolo process used for distribution? Why weren't other means like, let's say, computerized and ballots or anything? Why was the tambiolo process used?
Well, the lot allocation system using the drawing of lots was a process and system arrived at after looking into the backgrounder of Hacienda Luisita. To begin with, you have to realize that Hacienda Luisita is not a typical rice land where tenants exist with specific farm lots that they're cultivating. Instead, we have here sugar land operated on a plantation basis in which farm workers, not farmers, not tenants, but farm workers are assigned specific tasks on various parts of the land, the vast land holding. And it is because of this reason, and because there is no specific identification of the exact area of the cultivated land being done by a particular person, that we felt it was the best, most transparent and fairest system to the greatest number that we do this kind of drawing of lot system. Also have to remember that sometime in 2005, when Hacienda ceased doing business or ceased operations as a plantation, the farmers were left to their own devices, and some of them individually, unilaterally, on their own accord, began to clear portions of the landholding. Some of them positioned themselves in areas ranging from 3 or 2.5 or even 1.5 hectares and started cultivating for their own survival. But all of these were done without the permission or clearance from the Department of Agrarian Reform, which is the agency exclusively tasked on the part of the government to implement agrarian reform law. And part of that law, of course, here is a decision of the Supreme Court in the long-standing Hacienda Luisita case. If we were to take into account all of these factors, plus the fact that we wanted an orderly distribution, and considering further that the areas being cultivated by people currently in possession were not the same. Some of them were more than a hectare or as much as 2 hectares. And considering further that there are only 4,100 hectares to be distributed for 6,200 plus beneficiaries, then we would have a system in which some farmers would be cultivating more than 1 or 2 hectares and others being set for less than a hectare. That could not be. Everything has to be equal. Everyone has to have an equal chance to get the same area in the land holding, in the hacienda. And that is the reason why this was the system that we thought of that would be good and best for the greatest number in the hacienda.
So now, looking forward, what happens now after the distribution to ensure that the farmers will be productive, and what kind of support will be given to them?
Well, to begin with, let me clarify and be more specific. What we started here is the process of distribution. What we're given today were certificates of lot allocation as well as the accomplishment of applications to purchase and farmers' undertaking, in which the end result was the specification or the identification of the farm lots to be given to each beneficiary, the location, etc. Now, having said that, the next stage would be, of course, the generation of their titles, which in agrarian reform law are called certificates of land ownership award. These are, right as we speak at this very moment, work on the generation of the CLOAs, which are really the titles, have already started. And this will go on even as we continue the lot allocation system in the other barangays. This will then be submitted, all 212 of them, imagine that number, to the Register of Deeds so that the same can be registered. And once registered, all these, perhaps in one big event or perhaps in a series of events, can be distributed now, at least the photocopies thereof can be distributed to the beneficiaries.
What kind of a timeline are we looking at?
Well, based on the published schedule that we came up, the allocation of lots will end August 20, August 21. Originally, it was supposed to be August 21, but based on the efficiency of our people, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank and congratulate the people in the DAR for doing such an excellent job, along with our other colleagues in the Philippine National Police, in the Land Registration Authority, in the Land Bank, for doing such an excellent job. Some of these barangays, which will take 2 or 3 days, might just take a day to complete. And therefore, given the schedule, we might be completing the process by August 20. This means that we will be distributing photocopies of the titles by the month of September, after which we can begin now the process of installing monuments or demarcating the boundaries of each of the farm lots, to be followed by the installation of the beneficiaries. So now, while we're installing and while we're continuing with the lot allocation system, our other colleagues in the department will now step into the barangay and begin to underscore and emphasize the array of support services that can be tapped by the beneficiaries, whether they be in the form of access to credit, agricultural extension, training, equipment, and the like, even business coaching if they wish to, so that they can make their land really productive.
So realistically, when can the farmers actually start working and tilling the land?
Oh, this might happen around early next year, I think. Yes.
Okay. Now, Father Lucas, you were a direct witness of today's historic event. The church openly campaigned and championed the cause of the farmers. How significant is this for social justice, and as promised by the President, and he has delivered?
Well, first and foremost, if you glean the statements and the speeches of Pope Francis, even before he became Pope, he has stated that the government or the governments, they have the role as a moral agent. And it's their responsibility to see to it that the common good is protected. So after saying this, even Pope Francis says, the free market, nobody controls that. Those who are moral agents, which is the government. So with this initial distribution of the allocation of the lots and the promise that in a very few weeks the CLOA will appear, a certificate of for the farmers, for their ownership, then this is a happy event in the history, because it took Hacienda Luisita 2 decades of the farmers and the laborers fighting for having a land. And I was so impressed when during the Tambiolo, while the Tambiolo was being rowed by the secretary at the start, somebody was shouting in the middle, and I thought he was mad. No? And then the priest who was with me, who was also a witness, the parish priest, Father Lito Santos, translated to me. He said, what he was saying was this: come on, keep on rolling the Tambiolo, because any land, as long as I have my land, I'm happy, he said.
So it looked like a very festive event today.
Again?
It seemed like a very festive event.
It's festive, exciting, and nervous. Because, I saw an old woman who got her LAC, and she was so nervous and shaking. Maybe this is part of the dignity that she was given a responsibility when she signed the APFU, that is the application to purchase the land. Because, of course, she was thinking of, well, now I'm going to purchase my land. It is given to me at a very good price. So, because of the Supreme Court decision. So, I really felt that she was excited. She was a bit shaken or shaking. And for me, that is a boost for their dignity. Of course, there are problems which I was talking with some of them. They really want a land that will be productive and will produce for them a better future.
Now, Father, how should the farmers now value their land, since many farmer beneficiaries in the past did not hold on to what was given to them but sold it? What's your advice to them now?
Well, valuing the land based on your feelings is one. But I always say, in Tagalog, yung ani, pag walang money, is nothing. You condemn the farmer to extreme poverty forever. But if your ani becomes productive and there is money behind that ani, then farmers are happy because they get a better life.
You said, is there now a contract that will be undertaken with the beneficiaries to ensure that the land awarded to them is not converted or sold to other parties right away? Is there a time frame?
Well, there's a document that they accomplished and signed and swore to today. This is what we call the application to purchase and farmers' undertaking. The undertaking refers to their commitment to comply with any and all agrarian reform laws, rules, and regulations, among which, specifically stated in Republic Act number 6657 as amended, is obligation not to sell the land within a period of 10 years and to preserve the use of the land as agricultural within a period of 5 years. And all of these provisions of law, these undertakings, these commitments, will also be annotated on the certificates of land ownership award that will be given to them in due course. So yes, there are written evidence of these commitments that will be establish the relationship with the land that will be given to them.
Sir, now with regards to payment, how long will the payment be? How much is the payment for the land? How will they be paid? And will there be like, say, specific types of crops that will be planted in each of these areas?
All right, the question has two aspects. On the first aspect, on the payment, well, under Section 63 of the CARP, the period of time within which beneficiary is supposed to pay the amortizations for the land, annual amortizations, is 30 years. And specifically, the law provides that in the first 3 years, the amount of the amortization should be heavily discounted, after which the next 2 years should likewise be discounted, after which the 6th to the 30th year will be the usual straight line method of determining the annual amortization.
But there's still no actual amount?
Well, you see, the amount will be based on the complete violation of the total area of the land holding to be acquired by the government. Now, but I have been told that because of the provisions of the law, that this will be very, very, very cheap, subsidized as they are by the national government, as provided by express provisions of law. Now, as to what kinds of crop that they are supposed to plant, that's really up to them. If they wish to, kung gusto po nilang panatilihing tubuhan, ang lupaing ibibigay ay magagamit, kanila pong desisyon yun. Maaari pong iba dyan gagawing gulayan o kaya palayan. Nasa sa kanila po yun. Subalit, ano pa man po ang magiging desisyon nila, ibibigyan po namin sila ng mga sapat na mga tulong para nang sa gano'y palaguin po nila ang produkto nila sa kanilang lupain.
I will just take your final words. Let's start with Father Lucas. What is your advice to the farmers? And how did you see this event that took place today?
Land continues to be scarce. Land does not increase, population does increase. So once you own your land, be stewards of the land, because it's God who owns everything, including our lives. So it's our responsibility to develop this land. And if you will be helped by the government, who is morally responsible for the common good, then you will have a better life. But love your land and value that land. And this event is a milestone in the sense that after 2 decades, now, at last, at long last, the farmers are receiving their lands.
Usec Parungao, how will this impact on the government's program to reduce poverty, and what are the next steps? We started today with 600. What are the next steps after this?
Well, lot allocation activities will continue for the 9 other barangays. Hacienda Luisita is one among many areas throughout the country in which we're doing a lot of work. I would like to thank Father Francis for all the good words he has said about the DAR. I'm still on cloud 9 as to the excellent, efficient work that we've done. It only goes to show that the DAR can do its job, can render a critical public service for a public that should deserve nothing less, especially our marginalized farmers. It shows a government that when it sets its mind to do things, can do things well and do things together. It shows that the Philippine government and the country, for that matter, all things Filipino, can settle for nothing less but the best. Our people deserve nothing less but professional service from its public servants, and that is what we are committed to do. And bottom line is that this is not just about social justice, although that's important. For me, economic development cannot be sustained, cannot exist without rural development, and rural development will have no meaning and will not be sustained if there is no agrarian reform.
Okay, on that note, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us here tonight at NewsLife. That was Undersecretary Tony Parungao of DAR and Father Francis Lucas of the CBCP. Thank you, gentlemen.